Everyone, and welcome to another Top 5 Records video. And today I'm going to be talking about one of the greatest mastering engineers alive, Kevin Gray. And why should you care about the name of a mastering engineer? Well, if you find the name Kevin Gray on your record, you're well in for a treat because you have a guarantee for an amazing sounding version of your album, which in my experience can be heard on even the cheapest record players. So sound matters, and Kevin Gray is one of these names to follow. So what are his 25 best mastered vinyl, because it's not with an S. No. And without further ado, I'm gonna kick it out right off with number 25. Blues and Roots by Charles Mingus. And this pressing is the one obviously mastered by Kevin Gray for the Atlantic 75 series. It's a new series by Analogue Productions celebrating 75 years of Atlantic Records. And these titles were handpicked by Chet, the owner of Analogue Productions, to celebrate the release. So these are incredible albums. This is on 45 RPM, so 2 pieces of vinyl, and the mastering is just stunning. Anyway, Charles Mingus is a stunning artist. He was an audiophile artist himself, having very precise ideas about who to let in the studio and who not to, even refusing somebody like Rudy van Gelder, who is, in my opinion, also one of the great mastering engineers, but has a specific sound. Charles Mingus had another idea about a specific sound, so he wouldn't let Rudy van Gelder near his sessions. Nevertheless, his records sound amazing, and this is stunning. An incredible job by Kevin Gray. At number 25, Blues and Roots by Charles Mingus in the Atlantic 75 series on 45 RPM by Analogue Productions. At number 24, another Analogue Productions 45 RPM, though not from the Atlantic 75 series. It is a Lynyrd Skynyrd second helping. Lynyrd Skynyrd is, to me, one of the impressive big 70s bands. I always think of them as a sort of Southern American Led Zeppelin because they have a big sound, stunning guitar solos, and incredible melodies and licks. If you just take a look at this album, it opens with Sweet Home Alabama. You got I Need You, you got Working for MCA. So many great songs, an incredible album, mastered obviously by Kevin Gray on 45 RPM, and the sound is stunning. Last weekend I was at the largest record fair in the world here in Brabant, or in Den Bosch in the Brabanthalle in the Netherlands. I found an American copy. I almost bought it because I thought I'll compare it, but I didn't expect the American one to do the same thing this one did, so I actually left it. It's that good. But then again, I do not know for sure if it's better, but come on, 45 RPM, it sounds stunning. At 24, at 23, this is one of those albums that I've been looking for to find a good pressing of for so long. As a matter of fact, this record is tough to find where I live in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands. It's Buddy Holly's self-titled album. Now, the first time I found a pressing of this album was an 80s reissue, which was okay. Then, about a year or two ago, I found a first UK mono. I was thrilled to find that. And an original mono, or at least a UK mono, I mean, it does have a high status, about what you can expect sound-wise. Now, this MCA mastered pressing by Kevin Gray, it just blows the UK away. It is so beautiful. It's so vibrant. This is also a record that has a very gorgeous production, especially seeing the time it was made. I mean, my favorite song here, Every Day. It's a song, every day, it's a getting closer, going faster than a roller coaster. Love like yours could truly come my way. Hey, hey. And then you have this bum, 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 dum, dum. I'm not sure if it's a xylophone or what it is, or are just glass bottles, but the detail there, I mean, it was done with a vision, and that vision lives on. You got songs here like Peggy Sue, I'm gonna love you, Mailman, Bring Me No More Blues. So many great songs, and they sound so crisp, clear, gorgeous. At number 23, the MCA uh, Buddy Holly self-titled record. At number 22, we got Tony Joe White, Homemade Ice Cream. Now, that was not a big necessity for me to obtain this record because I had a very good first German pressing, and the sound of this production, the sound of this recording, it is just fabulous. I mean, Tony Joe White is this country blues folk interpretation. He has a very unique sound, very deep voice, very deep sound as a production. And the German one just sounded stunning. But then a friend of mine brought this 45 RPM from Analogue Productions, mastered by Kevin Gray and Zenef. And you put this on, and a whole new world of sound just opens up. It is really something to experience. Now, I think I might even have fallen in love more with the sound of this than per se of the music. Though the music is great, but the combination of the intimacy of that voice in this detail, that's where an audiophile pressing really gives that extra push towards loving it. At number 22, Homemade Ice Cream by Tony Joe White on 45 RPM Analogue Productions. Number 21, Nat King Cole, Where Did Everyone Go? Done for Analogue Productions on 45 RPM by Kevin Gray and Steve Hoffman. Now, why put this at number 21? Well, first of all, this is a very special sounding recording. It's conducted and arranged by Gordon Jenkins, one of the great men of those days. You got the voice of Nat King Cole, which is one of the best crooners, who has a warmth and intimacy that is completely unique, and it goes straight to my heart. And that balance between that voice, so close, so detailed, so gorgeous, and the orchestra setting up the mood and the atmosphere, it is just stunning. After I bought this one, I also bought an original mono pressing, US mono pressing, and I have never played that mono pressing after a first spin. This one makes you forget about that completely. It is so much better. It's an incredible improvement. At number 21, Nat King Cole, Where Did Everyone Go? At number 20, one of these often out of print blue note tone poets. It is Chet Baker Sings. And one of the first audiophile pressings that I bought, because after first time hearing it, I just fell in love with the way Chet Baker's voice sounds here. He is an oddball in the sense of jazz singers. Could I call him a crooner? I think so. Because his voice does not have warmth. His voice is, well, it has crackles and it sounds a bit, how do I say this? Pinched or something. Nevertheless, it's not pinched as an unauthentic. There's a complete personality in this distinct quality of this voice. Now, if you master, do you try to make the voice more common, or do you acknowledge that they were hearing something quite peculiar where a unique quality is at work? Yes, that's the case with Chet Baker, and especially with Chet Baker Sings. It is romantic in a very unique way, with songs like That Old Feeling, and of course, My Funny Valentine, which it will break your heart. This version will break your heart. And the way this Blue Note Tone Poets sounds, it is just stunning. On 33 RPM, at number 20, the Blue Note Tone Poets, Chet Baker Sings. Sings, not sinks. He's not sinking, he sings. 19, the Blue Yussef Lateef. A couple of years ago, I was at Concerto the record store in Amsterdam. I go there frequently, and they were playing this record, and immediately with the opening track, Jabba Jabba, which has the most incredible harmonica, I fell in love with the sound. Now, the guy behind the counter knew me. He said, "Shall I order one?" Yeah. He said, "Well, for $20 you got the music on vinyl. For $30 you got the speakers corner. For $30 you got the speakers corner mastered by Kevin Gray." I said, "Yeah, give me that one. I want to hear that one." So we ordered it. I fell in love. The sound is stunning. I fell in love so much that I wanted an original as well. So I bought a second pressing from the same year, not knowing it wasn't a first one, which was really good. I found the first one also really good. They are very much alike. But I can't say they are better than this repress. Can't say this repress is necessarily better as well. But there's this tie. It sounds so incredible good because the original is stunning. This is stunning. It's just an audiophile treat to your ears, and you'll fall in love. And that, I paid $30 back then. Right now, Speakers Corner pressings are $37. This really is the low-hanging fruit for audiophile treats. At number 19, the Blue Yussef Lateef. At number 18, another tone poet, the Cooker Lee Morgan. I really loved this album before I got this pressing. I had a Dutch 70s pressing from Blue Note. Sounded really, really good. And when I heard there was a Blue Note tone poet coming, I thought that might be quite something. And indeed, putting your needle onto the grooves of this album is one of those unique moments because the texture, the quality of, Lee Morgan on trumpet, Paul Chambers on bass, Philly Joe Jones on drums, and the way it's recorded, the way this sounds, the way the vinyl reproduces an atmosphere, a moment in time, and the way you're suddenly surrounded by that sound is completely unique. This sounds incredible. At number 18, the Blue Note tone poet by Lee Morgan, the Cooker. And at number 17, the 30th anniversary of Dark Side of the Moon. Now, I wouldn't call this the best sounding version of Dark Side of the Moon. If you are interested in that, please take a look at my video in which I compare about 10 different pressings of Dark Side of the Moon and I rank them. So why do I put this in this list here? Well, because this is, in my opinion, the best sounding version for the last 40 or 45 years. This pressing is about 20 years old. It's still out there. It's still out there in a good condition. And Kevin Gray just owns this as one of the recent remasters. And there are a lot great sounding versions of Dark Side of the Moon out there. Don't get me wrong, but this beats a lot of them. It sounds spectacularly good. It has a lot of detail. And Kevin Gray, in an interview, talked about having the master tape of this album in his house and listening to it, and or in his studio. And he said that is one incredible, unique moment because the quality of that master tape, it's supposed to be unchallenged. So please, Analogue Productions, do a UHQR on 45 RPM by Kevin Gray so we can get a little bit closer to that master tape and perhaps we might even get the best sounding version of this album ever. But for now, at number 17, the 30th anniversary of Dark Side of the Moon. At number 16, another Speaker's Corner. Albert King, Born Under a Bad Sign. This is Chicago blues at its highest level. It's so slick, it's so smooth, it's so controlled. There is a raw element in the gorgeous voice, but there's also a guitar that takes over. And when you listen to this, honestly, I like Eric Clapton, but this kind of blues blows cream away. It's so stunning. And again, I bought this for $30. Kevin Gray mastered Speaker's Corner pressing, and it sounds astonishing. It's as if it was recorded yesterday. The sound is so, not yesterday, sound of recording was also great in those days, but it's so great, so full, so warm, so detailed. I found a 70s Canadian repress a while ago. That was the only other time I found a pressing of this. And I thought, yeah, for 60 bucks, I'm not going to buy that because this is tough competition. Why even for 60 bucks go for the competition when this, the Speaker's Corner, for 30 and now 37 bucks sounds so stunning. At number 16, Albert King's Born Under a Bad Sign. Willie's Blues at number 15. Analogue Productions Willie Blues. What I'm holding here is the 33 RPM. There's also a 45 RPM, and that sounds even better. As a matter of fact, that was the record that made me fall in love with blues. A friend of mine brought it over to my house. I was interested in the blues, but I never heard some really full-on blues. Now, the details in the voice of Willie Dixon. I mean, just this image, him at the microphone. That is the sound. So close to that microphone. This man, I mean, his face is like his voice. It's just stunning. It's lovable. It's incredible. There's a vibe going on. And that in this incredible detail. I'm still looking for an original because I'm a big fan of this album. But this already sounds so good. This made me fall in love with the blues. At number 15, Analogue Productions, Willie Blues, both on 33 and 45 RPM. It is stunning. At number 14, a rather recent discovery. It is Jethro Tull, Stand Up. This is the Analogue Productions 45 RPM. There's a little funny thing in the cover. Yeah, I like it. Always keep the sleeve there. Collector's thing. Gorgeous pressing. I've heard a lot of reissues of Jethro Tull, and it's not always easy to get the complexity of this music in a good pressing. Well, Kevin Gray nailed it. This sounds so detailed, so gorgeous. It's an incredible experience just listening to it. On number 14, Jethro Tull, Stand Up, on 45 RPM by Analogue Productions. At number 13, I really bought this because the owner of Analogue Productions, Chet, just kept talking about it in videos. So I thought I got to experience this myself. And it's Lightning Hopkins, Going Away. Obviously on Analogue Productions, 33 RPM. He said it was perhaps his favorite blues album. It comes in my top 10. It is very sweet, very good. And I believe it's out of print right now, or a year ago or so, they had a small batch. I got one of those small batch. And yeah, the thing is, when you listen to a great blues record, it's very tough to describe the distinctive qualities of a good blues album. I mean, a close sound, warm, you hear the sorrow of the vocalist, all that stuff. The thing is, the identity is in the grooves. So I hope I can interest you to buy this, because if you don't already love the blues, you'll fall in love with this one. If you love the blues and haven't heard this one, add a new favorite to your list. It sounds incredible. At number 13, Going Away by Lightning Hopkins, 33 RPM on Analogue Productions. At number 12, a rather recent, or can I say recent? Nah, it's already 22 years ago. Norah Jones, Fly Away With Me. Come Away With Me. Sorry about that. Now, I already had the Universal pressing of this, or Back to Black. I believe Universal or Back to Black. Not an original, but a reissue, but they were all pretty much the same. And then a friend of mine said, oh, well, I could get an Analogue Productions, so we could give it a listen. But it's also on 33 RPM, made around the same time as your pressing. So it's basically about mastering and pressing quality. Bring it along with them. I don't think I will buy it from you. I'll trade it. I'm not sure. The original is pretty good. and comparing the two of them. I mean, both are 33 RPM. I'm not sure if they were pressed at the same uh, pressing plant, but Kevin Gray is just a better mastering engineer here. And Analogue Productions did a stunning job releasing this in a gatefold jacket. It is so much smoother, so much more detail. And for this record important, there is something about the air of the room in there, which gives this so much more lightness, even more lightness than the original pressing. I love it. At number 12, Come Away With Me by Norah Jones by Blue Note and Analogue Productions. Yes. Here we go. At number 11, one of the big guns. This is one of the grand records of jazz. John Coltrane's Blue Train. Now, between 2015 and 2020, there weren't a lot of great reissues out there. There were some, like the Music Matters version, and I believe an Analogue Productions 45 RPM. Very expensive. These cost hundreds and hundreds of bucks, and I just couldn't afford that. So I always thought I might never experience it in a great way. Now, I also found a 1962 Rudy van Gelder pressing of this. Very happy with that. Also pretty expensive. But then about a year or two ago, 2022, Blue Note announced in their Tone Poet series a version of the stereo and of the mono, and both of them are incredible. Kevin Gray did such a fabulous job. It sounds so stunningly good. I found the Music Matters version in Brooklyn about 3 weeks ago for $100, which is, well, a bargain compared to what they normally go for. But I left it there. I didn't think I needed another version after the way this Blue Note Tone Poet, which the mono one is about $40, this one's about $60, and it's an incredible, stunning sounding version out there for a much better price than the audiophiles that were on the market and are on the market before this release. This record changed the availability of best sounding versions of Blue Train. And this is one of the core records of jazz. So grateful for this release. At number 11, the Blue Note Tone Poet of John Coltrane, Blue Train. And we're going into the top 10, which I think is exciting. Right here, at number 10. Charles Mingus, The Clown, for the Atlantic 75 series. So I believe this record is about, it's from this year actually. 45 RPM, mastered by Kevin Gray for the Atlantic 75 series by Analogue Productions. And I have an original. I love this album. Deeply love this album. An original mono one. And I thought, no way is it ever going to sound better than that. Because, again, Charles Mingus is an audiophile. And then I put this on, and I couldn't believe my ears. The same idea behind the mastering, the same, the same vision on the way it should sound, but just more detail. So much more detail. It's incredible what Kevin Gray got out of these master tapes. Well, I didn't say the master tapes, but it is better than an original. Really better. And that in a relatively cheap audiophile series. Relatively cheap. At number 10, Charles Mingus, The Clown, in the Atlantic 75 series by Analogue Productions. Here we go. At number 9, Paul Chambers, Bass on Top, in the Blue Note Tone Poet series. Now, Paul Chambers is a bass player. And would you buy the record of a bass player? A foolish question, perhaps, but some people might think about that. And well, it's not just Paul Chambers here. You got Kenny Burrell on guitar, you got Hank Jones on piano, and you got Art Taylor on drums as well. So the lineup is just the elite of the 50s, 60s jazz on a Blue Note record. Paul Chambers is pretty much leading though. The way the bass guitar sounds, or bass guitar, the way the bass sounds, is just that quality, that definition, the way it just spreads across the room, and you're like suddenly in the middle of such a defining bass sound. And there's so much there, emotion, atmosphere. It's just stunning. It's one of my favorite jazz albums. It's one album that really seems to come out of nowhere, and it is a stunning sounding pressing. At number 9, Paul Chambers, Bass on Top for the Blue Note Tone Poet series. At number 8, I got the wrong one. Here I got it. At number 8, Ornette Coleman, The Shape of Jazz to Come for Speaker's Corner. Now, this is one of the defining albums from 1957. Am I right? Is it 57 or is it 58? Now I want to know for sure. Now, there's this documentary about 3 albums that defined this year. I believe it's, and then they're talking about, was it 58? So I'm so sorry. I'll double check it. But this is one of the defining albums of the late 50s. So I'll keep it a little bit vague. Very experimental. Brilliant. It's out there somewhere in my top 20 of favorite jazz albums. But this, I was completely blown away by the sound. A friend of mine also was very hooked, but he thought, you know what, if this sounds so great, I'm going to buy an original. So he bought a near mint original mono US pressing, and late at night at a party with a lot of friends, we thought we're gonna compare them. And although we're comparing the stereo with the mono, we were aware of that, and that's just different. We really had the idea this had more definition. And I love the sound of the US mono. Kevin Gray on a $30 record just made this sound better than the original. So it is one stunning pressing. And to have such a legendary album in this quality for a relatively low price, love it. At number 8, Ornette Coleman's The Shape of Jazz to Come. I gotta put these in a safely manner. At number 7, the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds on 45 RPM for Analogue Productions. I could almost tell the same story about this one as about The Shape of Jazz to Come. Not that this was late 50s or the big development in jazz. It's mid 60s, and it's the big development in pop and rock music. One epic masterpiece of writing, recording, and the best record Brian Wilson has made. It's a monument in American recording history. So, for a record of that value, it might be interesting to hear that this stereo pressing is not just a little bit better than an original because I did a comparison. It is way better. Now there are people out there who say, go get the mono version. I also have the Analogue Productions 45 mono one, because Brian Wilson supposedly, I believe, was deaf in one ear, or he listened to everything in mono. He was completely, his preference is the mono. Usually when the artist's vision is the same, I agree. In this case, no. So much more clarity, so much more detail. The stunning sounds coming out of everywhere on this album. I mean, you got to hear this in the 45 RPM Analogue Productions. Kevin Gray did almost the impossible, but it wasn't, because we've got this record here. At number 7, 45 RPM Analogue Productions of the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds. At number 6, I'm gonna pick up an entire box here, because this is just a legendary box. It is Chet On the legendary Riverside's album by Kraft Recordings. This record has several Chet Baker albums. For example, the self-titled Chet Baker Sings, not the Chet Baker Sings I just showed you from Blue Note. This is a different Chet Baker Sings. Chet Baker in New York, and Chet Baker plays the best of Lerner and Lowy. Then we've got outtakes and alternatives, which have some digital elements there, but it's much more of a bonus disc. These 4 albums in this box are an audiophile treat, and this is the core of my Chet Baker collection. These are the records, together with the Chet Baker Sings, that I listen to the most. The sound is so delicate. It has so much atmosphere. It's so pure. It's so good. This box contains... It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous treat. I love it. At number 6, the Chet Baker Riverside albums box on Kraft Recordings. Moving towards number 5. Actually, another recent release, and I should put 2 albums here, but I only have one and I listened to the other. I'll talk about that later. It is the Analogue Productions UHQR of Bill Evans' Sunday at the Village Vanguard. Now, I can't say that I compared this to an original, because originals are truly very costly. I didn't want to buy a reissue. Even the reissues of these, the common reissues, can become very expensive, and the easy available pressings are dull pressings, and you don't want to even get close to those. So all I heard from this was digital. Now, comparing it to Spotify, it's not a great thing to compare to Spotify. Why did I put this one that high? Because the sound of this is not just stunning for this album, but I do have other original records of Bill Evans, and I've always been mediocre interested in Bill Evans. I bought those originals because I really wanted to give him a shot, really wanted to find out what the fuzz all is about, and I never really got what the fuzz all is about until this stunningly detailed, gorgeous, really amazing, full sounding pressing of Sunday at the Village Vanguard. The sound is just everywhere in the room. It's just unbelievable what goes into your ears. There is another record, also from this year, on UHQR, Waltz for Debbie, also done by Kevin Gray, by Analogue Productions. And a friend of mine has that. We played this one, we played that one. I believe they even come from the same session, so this should be a shared spot for that. At number 5, Sunday at the Village Vanguard. Moving towards number 4. I recently did a video about this, but I have been blown away every time I listen to this the last week or two. It's the Rhino High Fidelity of Black Sabbath's self-titled first album. Now, I have a Dutch original pressing of this, which a lot of Black Sabbath fans said you got to go for the first UK. Some people say that the first Vertigo, the first US pressing might even be better than the first UK. There's some hassle about that or discussion. The first Dutch is also always at the top of those. I always loved the first Dutch. But the distinct difference between this and the first Dutch, and the amount of stunningly detail, the way this sounds, so much energy, like nothing of the master tapes has been lost, like all the freshness is still there, so much detail, there is so much more going on here than I've ever heard on other versions of this album. Really a masterpiece of engineering. I did an entire video on that. Please check it out if you're interested. But this is one of the big audiophile gems I have in my collection. At number 4, the recent 2024 Rhino High Fidelity pressing of Black Sabbath's original album from the Analogue tapes by Kevin Gray, obviously. At number 3, Analogue Productions, 45 RPM of John Lee Hooker's It Serves You Right to Suffer. Wow. Just wow. This is one of those records, if people are not convinced by the possibility of audiophile, put this on. The way the blues sounds here. The stunning detail. The voice. The entire texture of sound. No one who hears this will not believe that sound really, really matters. At number three, the 45 RPM Analogue Productions of It Serves You Right to Suffer. At number 2, another collaboration between Steve Hoffman and Kevin Gray. It is the 45 RPM pressing of Fleetwood Mac, Rumours. Now, Kevin Gray said in an interview that this was specifically a hard record to do because listening to the original master tapes, a lot of these songs were recorded in different studios. So the original pressing has a lot of equalizing and a lot of work done to get it to sound like one complete record. And he said that I believe he never ever had as much work working on this. As much work as working on this sentence. Nevertheless, when I listened to an original, and I have a near mint original, I was completely involved with the sound of it, completely convinced. I thought, I'm not really sure if that reissue, the 45, will sound better. But then again, people say it is. I'll give it a shot, and I might sell it if it's not worthwhile. Be prepared to be blown away, because although he had issues working on it, although it was a very hard master tape to work with, something came out of it that breathes more life, more detail into an already amazing sounding album than you could ever imagine. It is stunning. Stunning. If you find one, I believe I paid $50 for this. It's low-hanging fruit. It is low-hanging fruit. I love it. Now for the number 1 spot, I did not put it here. I'll grab it from my collection. Because honestly, I put this one away very safely. It is the Nat King Cole Story. One of the records that got me into audiophile recordings, audiophile pressings. Never ever has Nat King Cole's voice sounded this good. Rarely does anyone's voice sound this good. This has been a treasure in my collection for the past 5 years. And just as with the John Lee Hooker It Serves You Right to Suffer one, if I want to convince people of the full quality of recording, and even old recordings, and the way they can sound, and the way they can capture a moment in time, it's this. The way Nature Boy sounds on this Analogue Productions 45 RPM reissue is beyond, and it was beyond my imagination. I did not know music could be this beautiful, this detailed. I love it. I deeply, deeply love it. At number 1, the Analogue Productions 45 RPM box set of the Nat King Cole Story. Now, I am very curious. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you have gems of Kevin Gray in your collection that I should really also give a spin? Please leave a comment below and let's give each other tips and titles of where to find more of these audiophile treats. So thank you very much for watching and see you in my next video. Bye.